The madness is officially here. The college basketball season has ended. It is Monday, March the 10th, and we are talking college conference tournaments this week, NCAA tournament next week. This is WagerTalk Today, and we do it every Monday through Friday live at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. I am Steve Merril, filling in for the Prez. Don't you worry. He'll be back on Wednesday, from what I hear. But we're going to motor along nonetheless, and we're going to have a great show here today. A lot of basketballs, a little hockey mixed in as well. Started off with Bryan Leonard talking some college hoops, some NHL. Skee Profit, of course, NBA expert, will be here. Gianni The Greek also with his Steam report. And I'm going to sneak in a few college conference tournament games here for Monday as well in between. But let's start it off with Bryan Leonard, direct from Las Vegas, Nevada. Unless you went to some spring training, Bryan, I haven't seen you in a while. Did you sneak to the Cactus or Grapefruit Leagues this year?
No, it'll be the first time in recent memory I wasn't able to go. I was just too overloaded with all my baseball work I've done so far this season. So I'm all set. We're only, 8 days away from the games in Japan. So looking forward to it. But, yeah, we're ready to kick some butt today in basketball and hockey, and hopefully we can get you some winners.
Yeah, and the full season, I guess, is March 27th. We're less than 3 weeks away from a full MLB in full swing, no pun intended. Let's talk college hoops. So Big 12 Tuesday. What's something you're looking at in the Big 12 tournament?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the Cincinnati-Oklahoma State game. That's going to be played in Kansas City, Missouri, by the way. I haven't seen any numbers come out. My power ratings say it should be 7.5 for the Bearcats, so we'll play it by ear, and I'll give a recommendation based on that. But these two just played in Oklahoma State, and the Bearcats lost 78-67 as a 3.5 point favorite in it. Cincinnati started the season 10-1. But now Interpay at 17-14, just 1-6 lately away from home. This is a chance for Cincinnati to get back to where they were earlier this season by getting through this first round of this tournament. The Bearcats have fared pretty well against teams like the Cowboys overall. They really struggled when they stepped up in class this year. They won't have to do that here. They also played better in faster-paced contests, and that's the preferred style here of Oklahoma State. They rank 33rd in true tempo. So I expect a nice bounce back here from the Bearcats. When looking at the lineup from Cincinnati and Oklahoma State, we see when you take a look at the Evan Maya power ratings that while Cincinnati has the better personnel all the way down the line, just a better, deeper team. They've got better players, and I expect them to bounce back here. But I don't want to lay anything more than 6. So we could get Cincinnati at 6 or less. I'll be on the Bearcats on Tuesday.
And, of course, keep an eye on the WagerTalk free live odds screen. It's about a 5-minute delay, but you can click on all the college basketball tournaments. And if you want to try oddslogic.com, the premium live odds service for free, I have a special link on my page, oddslogic.com/SM for a 7-day trial. This is a great week to do it because, like Bryan said, these lines are going to start popping for multiple college tournaments. That one tomorrow on Tuesday. It's an early game, Okie State and Cincinnati. Bryan, let's talk about the Horizon League. This is a league I know over the years you followed up there in the Northeast, mid-Northeast. I don't know what you'd call that. It's not New England. Northeast, I guess. What do you call the Ohio area? Northeast?
Northeast. The North Coast is what they call it in Cleveland.
North Coast. There we go. That's why Phil Steele, I never knew that was actually why, that's probably why the newsletter was named North Coast Sports. Yep. Never heard that term. Youngstown and Cleveland State. Your Vikings. Your Cleveland State Vikings. Youngstown. What are you looking at in this one? ESPN2, the Deuce.
Yeah, I went to Cleveland State for my first year of college, and
I didn't know that.
Had a lot of great basketball teams playing there. I mean, that was back in the good old days of Cleveland State. They'd like to get back there again. Been there a couple times. But the visitor in this series won outright in both earlier meetings. The Penguins reached the 20-win plateau by knocking off Purdue Fort Wayne in their last game. And I know Mark Lawrence, a friend of ours who has put out his newsletter for years, he likes to fade teams that once they win that 20th game. So that may be something to look at here. They're 14-7 in conference play, but they may be without E.J. Farmer tonight, and he's their third best player, according to Evan Maya's Bayesian power ratings, and he averages 29 minutes a game. So make sure you check on that. I would expect him not to be in based on the way the line has moved so far. Youngstown State is also a team that likes to run. They got the 62nd true tempo rate, but the offense only ranks 256 in the country. So when you're not very good offensively and you like to run, I'm not sure that's such a great combination for this Penguins team. The Vikings of Cleveland State sit at 21-11 overall, 15-6 in Horizon League action. While Gabe Dines of the Penguins grades out as the best player on the court tonight, Cleveland State has the next 4 highest rated players, according to Evan Maya. I like the team. They've got some depth. The early money's come in on the Vikings, and I agree with that. They have the more offensive talent, and they play the tougher overall schedule in non-conference play. So give me Cleveland State. They're currently -2.5. If you prefer to play them on the money line, that's one thing. I don't like to do that. I'm just going to lay the 2.5 here with Ohio State as our best bet in college basketball today.
Yeah, that's the Horizon League semifinals. That's the second game tonight at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN2, Youngstown, Cleveland State. And I'm going to talk a little bit later in the show about the first game tonight at 7 Eastern, Oakland and Robert Morris. So stay tuned. I'm also going to have both of your West Coast Conference semifinals, Pepperdine, St. Mary's, San Francisco, Gonzaga coming up free for you here on the show. Brian, before we transition to NHL, what are some just general thoughts that you look at here for people handicapping this week at conference tournaments? We have the big boys going here the next several days. The SEC tournament is going to probably be the deepest conference tournament in history. I think mathematically every team has a better chance of winning the NCAA tournament than the SEC tournament later this week, which is insane. But they're all like top 100 net ranked teams. You know, it's really insane when you do the math on that.
Yeah.
Yet I've always said, you know, the SEC is a perfect example of this. Florida's probably locked into a 1. Auburn off back-to-back losses is maybe making it dicey, but they're probably a 1 still. You know, unless you're going to win the whole thing, you're much better off probably going out on the first or second day and not taxing yourself for 3 extra games. But as a handicapper, what is something that you're looking at here in the conference tournaments? A little bit of a cheat sheet maybe for people doing their own work.
Yeah, there's 2 things that I'm going to take a look at, and I'm glad you're on the show today because one of them has to do with one of your favorite teams. The first one is don't worry about having these teams play too many games in a row. We see this all the time. They played 3 games in a row, and this actually worked out for me well yesterday as I had Delaware against William and Mary, I'm sorry to say. Delaware was playing their 3rd game in a row. Well, William and Mary's coming in fresh, and so it works out well that they got that victory. They won it pretty well going away. But these are college kids. You know, just a few years ago, and you'll remember this, it was the SEC tournament, and Georgia was a team that was in that, and they weren't expected to do very well. In fact, I believe they had to play 5 straight games in only 4 days because of a scheduling change. They had to play 2 games in 1 day, and they ended up winning the tournament. This was a team, every step of the way, all my wise guys friends were saying, well, got to go against them now, got to go against them now. These kids are 18, 20 years old. They could go out and play every day of their lives, and most of them have. So pay little attention to a team that's had to play 3 or 4 in a row, especially teams like the Delaware Hens, who were expected to be 4th in that conference last year and had a bad season. Those teams that were expected to do well early in the season and haven't had a lot of injuries, this is a renewed situation for them. And that's the second thing I want to take a look at. His teams were expected to be very good this season, and without the injuries, they just have not played well. Once you get to the tournament, it's a brand new season for you, and you can still get to the big dance. So that's the second thing I take a look at, is when you're betting these teams come tournament play, go back and look. I've got my blue ribbon notebook right here, and it'll tell you how these teams were expected to do before the season. And if they're back with the same players, hey, this is a renewed chance for them, and you can make some money on them.
Yeah, Brian, you know, obviously I didn't get the memo. I wore my Tribe shirt, Tribe jacket here because Under Armour. I wore my Under Armour jacket. I thought they were playing Towson tonight. You mean Delaware won yesterday? So watch the game, and those that watched last call know I was debating to go to the all-you-can-eat, you'll like this, the all-you-can-eat $20 pizza wings at Anna's Brick Oven here to watch the watch party. It was on Flow Sports, which is like internet feed. I don't pay for Flow Sports. 5 pounds heavier today. I did just weigh myself before the show. I only had like 10 wings and 3 slices of pizza, but I'm 5 pounds heavier. Sodium's worth about 3 pounds. I'll drop about 3 here the next day. But it was really an interesting case study of just 3-point shooting. Delaware, by the way, set a CAA tournament record yesterday with 16 threes. They finished with 18. They had hit 16 with 10 minutes to go in the game still. They had 12 in the first half, and William & Mary was winning by 2. Of course, I jinxed them. Everyone's asking me, the handicapper. And normally I never would say, oh, I feel good about this. But I thought it was a great spot. You just want to kind of hold your own when off for a week, like you said, when a team's playing their third straight. And you figured they would fatigue. The threes aren't going to fall anymore, but they kept falling. And it turned into a rout. William & Mary missed about 4 straight finger roll layups at one point to take about a 5-7 point lead. And that was the difference. The wheels came off. But, yeah, Delaware against Towson now playing, their 4th game in 4 nights. We've got the same thing with Pepperdine, 4th game in 4 nights against rested St. Mary's, who hasn't even played yet. I'm going to talk about that game a little bit later here in the show. But you're right, Brian. Momentum in all sports, right? The NFL playoffs, we never saw wildcard teams make runs. And the Packers did it as a 6th seed about a decade ago. I think the Giants did it a little bit before that. Momentum works more now in sports. And my theory is that everything is more offense, faster pace, more tempo in basketball, more three-point shooting. Obviously, you get in a rhythm. And in football, it's a pass-heavy league. College football, it's a pass-heavy league. We saw those teams with the bye in the NCAA championship not do well in football this year also. So do you agree that's something that's definitely changed since you and I were handicapping in the 80s and the 90s?
Yeah, definitely did. And there's been teams in the NFL that have been wildcard teams and just barely made it in and got on a hot streak and, get all the way to the Super Bowl. So, it definitely happens. And it's something you got to keep an eye on as you handicap these games.
Where else we see it, Brian, is in hockey, goaltenders, NHL playoffs. And we've seen the Blues made that run a few years ago, right after my Capitals did it. What is something you're looking at in the NHL tonight?
Before I get to the NHL game tonight, which is an actual selection of mine, I'll have that up for you in just a moment. I do want to send out a reminder. We've got this great special that ends tomorrow. And I know tomorrow is Customer Appreciation Day, the $5 plays. Everybody gets all excited about that, as you should. So I want to send this out today for anybody who hasn't signed up yet. We were number 1 in the history of WagerTalk in Major League Baseball. That's Major League Baseball net profit. I know Tokyo Brand has been great in baseball from around the globe. But in Major League Baseball, number 1 in the history of WagerTalk. The last 2 years combined, number 1. I play a lot of underdogs. Last year I had 56% underdogs, and it's very much like hockey, where I think that's where you find the value. But we've got this great special going on right now, but it ends tomorrow at midnight. We're only 8 days away from the baseball season starting, and we've got all of our plays through the World Series, which is only about half price right now at $599. And I'm also number 1 in the history of WagerTalk in the NHL, number 1 in the last 30 days in the NHL. I'll throw in the NHL for the rest of the season all the way through the championship for just $1 more. So $600, you get baseball, you get hockey all the way to the conclusions of the season. But that special ends tomorrow, and you can pick that up on my page right now. Getting back to today's card, we'll take a look at this Detroit-Ottawa game. This is going to be my best bet in hockey today. And as poorly as the Red Wings have played lately, they still own a 50.87 expected goal share in 5-on-5 play the last month. So they've been doing better than Ottawa, who comes in at 47.14. Ottawa's been the team that's gotten more wins, but Detroit has dominated play better than Ottawa has. The net goal advantage for Ottawa on the season is +20, so that's an advantage for them. But, the Red Wings have lost 5 straight games, and you have to consider this contest as their biggest play of the season. Being tied with Boston and Montreal at 66 points and trailing these Senators by 3 points in the standings. And to their record, Detroit's been solid on the road, 14-12-3 on the season. These two teams have split their first 2 meetings. They're very, very comparable in our power ratings. Ottawa's gotten off to a solid start in March, winning 3 of 4, with that lone loss coming at Washington on the road, which is pretty impressive. But this has been a strong home ice for the Sens. They're 18-9-2 at home, but this line is, in my opinion, way too high based on the game importance for the visitor. I look for Detroit to put out their best effort they've had in the last 2 weeks, and I'll take Detroit at what I consider to be an inflated price to stay in this race back in the East.
Like it, man. Bryan Leonard giving you his top hockey recommendation for free here on Monday, March the 10th. But once again, that fantastic special expires soon. $5.99 for the baseball season, which by itself is a great deal. And get the rest of the NHL for $1. And Brian, that includes the playoffs, right, through the Stanley Cup?
Includes everything, and we're red hot in the NHL. We're on a 20-7 run, 30-15 overall, and overall run 23-12. So we're just seeing everything really well right now. And if you're the people that have joined early, which I recommended earlier, they've just been on a tremendous run.
And once again, you get there quicker, that shortcut you see on your screen, wt.buzz/BL. Bryan Leonard, everybody. Great to see Brian, as always. And we're going to keep it here in the professional ranks. Going to talk some more college hoops later in the show. Once again, I'm going to have 3 free college games for you tonight. Gianni The Greek's going to come on with his Steam report. But let's talk some NBA now with Skee Profit. And you know, Skee, everybody's talking about March Madness, college hoops, a lot of excitement this time of the year, but there's still money to be made, obviously, in the NBA as well. And you do quite well in the association. Let's start off with, what do you want to start off with? Lakers, Nets? Let's start with your Lakers, your LA Lakers against somebody's Brooklyn Nets. What are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, it's only right to start with the Lakers. Or I guess you could say save the best for last. I'm not sure which way you want to go. But for this game, it's tough. If everybody was healthy, it would be extremely easy. Obviously, no LeBron in this game. We've now no Rui either. Jackson Hayes has been ruled out. Dorian Finney-Smith has been ruled out. And Luka is questionable. So it's a lot missing from this Lakers team who's been playing their best basketball of the season. Probably the best basketball overall in the NBA over the past 20 or so games. For the Nets, they're also missing a big piece. You have Cam Thomas who's going to miss this game. And when he's been off the court, they haven't been able to cover. They've been a strong under team. I believe they've gone under 16 of their last 19 games. So the way I look at it, it's only one person or maybe a couple of people on that Nets team that I trust without Cam Thomas on the court to score the ball. So I agree with the market. Push this one slightly down from 217 to 215.5. Obviously, I mentioned the lack of offense without Cam Thomas. For the Lakers, you're going to miss LeBron scoring, Rui shooting. You are missing a couple defenders, but overall, they've been a strong defensive team. And I think that can continue even missing the offense. So under 216 is my recommendation for this game.
Yeah, Skee, I want to ask you, too. I mean, you follow the Lakers as close as anybody. Are you surprised their defense has been, I don't want to say better with Doncic and no Anthony Davis, but they've now gone under 9 of their last 10. That's not necessarily something I saw coming.
It is a little bit surprising. I mean, nobody would really think you get rid of Anthony Davis and the defense gets better, but it just goes to show you how much defense is effort. The Lakers added Luka Doncic to the team, and they finally felt like they have a chance to win again. And you see everybody actually putting that effort out there on the defensive side of the ball, LeBron included. That's the big key. So it is a little bit surprising, but I understand why it's happening.
Yeah, well, it's an excellent point, too. We talk about this in the NBA playoffs a lot. I always say the games are 2, 3, 4 points lower scoring on average because of the defensive intensity. And it's not like anything changes necessarily in the lineups, but the teams just bring it. So, yeah, I think the Lakers have gotten a renewed life, basically, bringing in Doncic, and it's shown on the defensive side. They've now gone under 9 of their last 10, and Skee thinks could be some value once again tonight. That total's around 216.5 right now in most spots. All right, interesting matchup here at 8 o'clock Eastern, a quick rematch between OKC and Denver. OKC is now a 9-point favorite in this one. Totals around 238, 239. This is something we see a lot in the playoffs, obviously, the rematches, the zigzag, the adjustments. We're seeing it more in the regular season. But this isn't a home and home. It's an away and away for Denver. They just lost by, 24 yesterday as a 7.5-point dog. Stayed under the 243.5, landed on 230. And now, once again, we're seeing a line around 9 and 238. What are you doing in this quick rematch?
Yeah, it is interesting. Very quick rematch, back to back. So usually I like to look at teams who play in short time spans, like maybe within a week. And depending how that first game went, for example, if it went under and you see the odds makers open up this second game at a lower number, they're telling you they expect it to be lower scoring. And I tend to listen and try to find ways to back that. And that's what we've seen here. I believe the last meeting, it was around 243, somewhere around there. And This one today, right now, we're looking at
about 238 right now, but it's been jumping around a little bit, yeah.
So the odds makers are telling us they expect it to be lower scoring. And really, I mean, that's what we've seen usually when these teams play. It's gone under 6 of the last 7 meetings. And another thing I like to look at after All-Star break, that's when NBA gets a little bit more intense as well. You have teams jockeying for position in the standings, et cetera, et cetera. You have two elite teams here in this conference. Like, these are teams that want to send a message. This is a game that's played with a lot more of that intensity that we were talking about in the last game, and just results in more defensive, lower scoring games. So all of this just adds up. I mean, we know the Thunder are an amazing defense, probably the best defense in the NBA all year. Nuggets have been a little bit inconsistent, but I do think they'll bring it after their blowout loss in their last game. So under 238 is my recommendation here.
No, I agree with you. I mean, that's the zigzag, right? And it works for several reasons. First of all, the other team sometimes lets down. Everyone thinks the team makes an adjustment, they got blown out. But the other way, if you blow somebody else, you kind of let down, you make no adjustments. And then on top of that, this line's actually higher than it was yesterday. It's probably a better spot for Denver, yet the line is 1.5 higher, which is kind of interesting on this rematch tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. All right, huge NBA card tonight. We've covered two of the games for you. What's that?
My bad. Just to speak to that, they are going to be missing Aaron Gordon, and Jokic, I think, hurt his elbow a little bit. So that could be also a reason why you see the line moving that way.
Yeah, I think the Jokic uncertainty is no question why. I mean, the point spread's 1.5 higher, and the total is like 5 points lower, like you said. And it did go under yesterday, so it's probably going to be bumped a point or two because of that. So Jokic is worth probably 2 to 3 points right now in the total, and at least a point or two in the spread as well. So keep an eye on Jokic. The NBA injury report, always fun this time of the year, and a quick turnaround, no rest. Who knows what they'll do with him tonight. Huge card tonight, though. There's a good late game as well. The Knicks and the Kings. Don't look now, but the New York Knicks are the biggest money burner in the NBA recently. 1-9 against the spread their last 10. And here's another trade deadlines reversal, right? You get rid of De'Aaron Fox, and the Kings have actually been covering games, playing quite well. What do you do with this one tonight?
Yeah, it's interesting for those Kings. I would not have, if you asked me that prior to the trade, I would not have given you that prediction. But Kings are actually playing defense right now. Top 10 defensive rated team post All-Star. Offense has been good. They're just playing overall really good basketball. But I want to focus on that defense because when I look at this roster, it's a lot of good offensive talent. There's not a lot of people I look at and view as defenders. I think it's similar to how we talked about that Lakers game. It's just effort after that All-Star break for them. So if we can trust them playing the defense they have been, being 25th in pace post All-Star, and then you have a Knicks team on the other side who also doesn't like to play up-tempo. They're missing Brunson, and without him, the offense obviously takes a dip, but the defense gets better. The defensive rating with him on the court goes from 115.3 to about 106.5. So better defense, less offense, both teams playing at a slow pace. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. I can understand why the opener was 224.5, and we're looking at 219.5 right now. That's the way that I would bet it.
Yeah, back-to-back overs for the Kings, but they're still 5-2 to the under their last 7. They had gone under 5 straight before that, and they have gone 6-0-1 against the spread the last 7. They haven't failed to cover any of their last 7 games. The Knicks, once again, have failed to cover 9 of their last 10. So we'll see if the odds makers have inflated the line enough, but yet the Knicks are a 3-point road favorite. So teams continue to cover, and they're getting points here tonight. That's your late game on a big NBA card tonight, 10:40 Eastern. Huge NBA card tonight on Monday with all these conference tournament games starting later this week. Skee, what do you have going on at WagerTalk.com for everybody?
Well, I have one bet out of this humongous NBA slate that I like a lot more than the rest. I feel, confident in this bet, more confident in this bet than I felt in the past week or so in the association. So if you would like to be involved, it's up at WagerTalk.com. And on my 4% or higher, the last 120, I believe I've hit about a little bit above 64%. So yeah, catch it over at WagerTalk.com.
And get there quicker once again with that shortcut you see on the screen, WT.buzz/HP for Skee Profit. Skee, thank you. Good luck tonight and this week in college and pro hoops, of course. A lot of NBA tonight and a lot of college basketball all week. And as Bryan Leonard said, baseball starts in just a couple weeks, and then the full season on March 27th. I'm going to have the Steam report in just a little bit with Gianni The Greek here, so stay tuned. But I'm going to go ahead and go over 3 more college basketball games that go tonight on Monday for you right here, free for you on Wager Talk Today. All right, let's look at 3 games tonight on Monday in college hoops for March the 10th. We're going to look at both West Coast semifinals in a moment, but let's talk about the first semifinal in the Horizon League at 7 Eastern, and that pits, of course, Oakland against Robert Morris. And as we check the WagerTalk live odds screen, which, of course, has a few minute delay, but it's good enough for what most people need. A 3.5-point favorite. Robert Morris opened 2, up to 3.5. Total's gone from 139 up to 140. So a little bit of money on Robert Morris and also on the over in this one. And the one thing that jumps out to you about Oakland is pace of play. They play extremely slow. There's 364 teams in the country, and they're one of the 20 slowest squads in the nation this year in college basketball. And that's important in tournament play. You know, one thing I do look for in conference tournaments is slow down half-court teams, especially in these multiple game, no-rest situations. Now, Robert Morris got the initial bye, and they played last Thursday, so they didn't have to play any this weekend. Meanwhile, Oakland won last Tuesday. They also won last Thursday, and now they're playing. So both teams are rested here, so it's not really a no rest like we see in a lot of these other tournaments. But it'll be interesting to see if Oakland's slow-down style can frustrate Robert Morris. And it did earlier this season. In fact, at Robert Morris, Oakland went in there as an underdog and won outright lost 73-71, but a very competitive game on the road, losing by just 2 this season. And they also at home in early January lost by just 8. Pace of play was actually pretty slow in those games, even though they totaled 150 and 144. And one of the reasons is in that late January game, the 144, the two teams combined for 22 three-pointers. And if you look at the first game, they had 15 three-pointers. Yes, that could happen again tonight, but I don't think it's statistically too likely. And Robert Morris does not give up many shots or many field goal attempts from three-point range. And on the season, Oakland's a terrible three-point shooting team. They don't have a good 3D, but Robert Morris once again gets more points down low. So I like the matchup here for the under. I think Oakland will play slow. They'll be able to control the tempo. And the 2 higher scoring initial games were a little misleading. I disagree with this money move from 139 to 140. It's even 140.5 now. Take a look at Oakland and Robert Morris under the 140 to 140.5. That goes tonight at 7 Eastern. Horizon League semifinals. Let's look now at both West Coast semifinal games, the late night games for Monday. Quick reminder, though, if you want my best bet for tonight, I do have a strong college tournament best bet on the earlier card. It's available on my page right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. You can get the top play tonight for $25 or get the rest of the college basketball season for just $169, dude. No promo code needed. That gets the rest of the college conference tournaments all week, all of March Madness, NCAA, NIT through the championship for just $169. $169 gets the rest of college basketball, including a strong best bet tonight on Monday. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with that shortcut on the screen, wt.buzz/SM. All right, now let's look at the West Coast Conference. And look, Pepperdine got me yesterday. I admit it. I did not see that coming. I thought it was a great spot for Santa Clara, but Pepperdine pulled the monster upset as a double-digit dog, 78-76. And now they're playing their 4th game in a row with no rest. You know, they caught Santa Clara rested and just flat yesterday, and we talked about this earlier. That is the concern with the new formats, with teams playing multiple days. Is it fatigue or is it rust for the team that's been sitting? Well, obviously it was rust yesterday for Santa Clara. And yes, maybe St. Mary's could fall into that trap as well because they haven't played in 9 days since Saturday, March the 1st. I don't think that happens, though, for a couple reasons. First of all, St. Mary's is a veteran squad. They're used to the double, triple bye, whatever you want to call this. And Pepperdine is playing on tired legs now, and their only chance in this game is to get lucky from 3, and I just don't think it happens. Also, another reason I don't worry as much about rust with St. Mary's, not only are they a veteran squad, but they're also an extremely slow half-court team. We talk about Oakland, bottom 20. St. Mary's is one of the 6 slowest teams in the country. They currently rank about 359 out of 364 in pace, and Pepperdine likes to play fast. Not a good combo when you're playing your 4th game in 4 days without rest. You want to play fast, got to be tired, and then on top of that, your opponent, the better team, is slow down half-court basketball, and they don't match up well here. They had trouble in both regular season meetings. St. Mary's dominated those games. You go back and look at those scores, you see it wasn't competitive. In fact, Pepperdine at home back in mid-January lost by 24, and in early January on the road, they lost by 30. So 24 and 30-point losses. It might be a big number, but it's big for a reason. Lay the 19.5 with St. Mary's tonight at 9 Eastern. And then the final game, a late night game in the West Coast semifinals at 11:30 Eastern Monday, is a little bit of a better matchup. San Francisco Gonzaga. And you wouldn't know it by looking at the point spread, 14.5. Should be a high scoring game. Opened 155.5. It's down to 153.5. But San Francisco's a decent team here. But once again, Gonzaga, very good, just like St. Mary's. They're the pedigree here on the West Coast. It's interesting. They added Oregon State. They added Washington State. It didn't matter. You look at the Final Four here in the conference, and it's San Fran, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and obviously Pepperdine sneaking in as the Cinderella story. I think that ends tonight. But here again, San Francisco had to play yesterday, 11-point win against Washington State, whereas Gonzaga has also been off for 9 days. They haven't played since that end of the regular season a week ago on Saturday, March the 1st. Another twist that's interesting about this game is it's a quick revenge spot, or quick rematch at least, for San Francisco, is that finale on March 1st was against Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga beat them by 20 on the road, a very impressive road win. They also beat them by 11 at home earlier this season. But I think San Francisco can maybe hang here. Once again, they've only played one game during this tournament. It's not like Pepperdine that's playing their fourth game in 4 days. So I do think it actually serves San Fran well early on. They have a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a fresh shooting touch, whereas Gonzaga's been laid off. So you might want to look at San Francisco first half. That's definitely another way to attack this game, or the full game, which is about 14.5. And the first half line, by the way, as I checked the WagerTalk live odds screens, about 8.5. So I think that's interesting that the first half line is more than half the game line, even though I think San Francisco probably has an edge initially, having played yesterday and not being too fatigued. They had a nice 11-point win, nothing crazy. And by the way, in that 11-point win yesterday, they only were 6 for 25 from three-point range and still won the game by margin. I think that's a good sign. Yes, they got blown out by Gonzaga, but that also means the Zags might overlook them a little bit here, especially at the start. I think San Francisco can hang here, and the first half plus 8.5 actually might be an interesting way to attack this tonight. The late night game for you at 11:30 Eastern. Hey, 3 quick hitters for you in some conference semifinals. If you found it useful, thumbs up, like, comment as well, whether you're watching on live chat on the live shows or on the replays on YouTube. Comment. As the more comments, the more thumbs up, likes, the more free play videos I will do every day during March Madness. Also NBA, Major League Baseball free play videos. I do truly read the comments and I reply back. And don't forget, click subscribe and click that bell for an instant alert when you subscribe, so you know when the free plays are posted each and every day right here on WagerTalk TV. And don't forget, if you'd like to get my strong college best bet tonight, it's $25 for the single player. Get the rest of college hoops the rest of the season for $169. No promo code needed. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And don't forget, I post a bonus free play almost every day of the week. It's the last cut that just misses out on my best bet card. Goes up for free for everybody. Check out that bonus free play as well. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And get there quicker with shortcut wt.buzz/SM. If you'd like to try that free 7 days of Odds Logic, real-time live odds, scores, and injury updates, go to oddslogic.com/SM for that special offer. And follow me on social media as well, at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L. You know the deal, at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L on X and Instagram. And, of course, stay tuned each and every day here on WagerTalk TV for more great free content, which is always coming up next. All right, 3 free plays for you there in college hoops. Hope you found it useful. We're going to get to the Steam report now with Gianni The Greek. Ace, I throw it to you. What's moving on the board as we speak?
Slow day so far. No surprise, really, because this is the time of the year where you get a lot of recreational bettors joining the party. So there's not really a race as during the regular season, more when there's a bigger board and the smaller market games, it's the sharps versus the books. But when you have a condensed board and not all that much to choose from, except a handful of maybe marquee TV games like we like to call them, there's no reason to get out ahead of any other group, because the public's going to move a lot of those lines because the money is going to come in heavy. Especially we see that in conference tournament. Obviously, it's zero-sum game. I talk about that all the time, and we're not working together. But at the same time, everybody knows the game. And there's times of the year where the landscape changes. And the public money is going to affect matchups like Ball State and Northern Illinois, where during the regular season, that doesn't happen all that often. And the only people betting the total on Robert Morris are the betting syndicates. So it's them against the other betting syndicates versus the books. But now, this time of year, this is what I've seen, at least over the last couple of years, with the more and more books, more and more lines, more places to shop, that there really isn't all that big of a race early on, especially because the limits are lower as well. So a lot of these groups, they may try to get out ahead of the public on a game they may want to manipulate, meaning come back the other way. Because again, if the book's expecting to get public money on Team A and on the overnights, you get an account that I have, and we start betting that Team A as well on screen, the book's going to realize, wait, we're going to be on an island here. Not only are we going to have the public, but we're going to have the sharps. So they're going to move it a little bit more significantly. Then other books that haven't even taken a bet yet, they're just going to copy the line. Whatever's painted across the board, that's what they're going to copy to avoid having another group come in and take that number that they hit somewhere else. And you could almost see it happening. And then about an hour before tip-off, you look at your odds screen and the opposite happens. It just comes down back to the opener a lot of times, if not below the opener. And that's the legit position. This is the easiest time. People ask me all the time, how do you determine what's a legit move, what's not a legit move? Lines are moving every day. They move on almost every game. And that's true. And that's why if you're line chasing, steam chasing, you find yourself getting in some trouble. But if you could already have your positions established and now I'm just looking for confirmation, that's one of the easiest ways to confirm. Seeing those lines that get hit with the lower limits, get hit on the overnights, get hit because it's also the public side, and then keeping an up-to-date, like you just said, odds logic, get that free week, especially during conference tournaments, see that sharper book, isolate those sharper books, because the other ones are going to be slower. And when you see that line doing a reversal, dude, you could confirm that's the side. That's the play. They're not going to dummy anything up late. Nobody's manipulating the market 30 minutes, 20 minutes before tip-off. That's too late for that. It's over. Those moves are legit. So if you're already ready for it, you could actually get out ahead and get some CLV as well. Because, again, lines are being copied by other books, and it'll continue to drop. Now, some of the sides that we already got in, actually the only side that we took a position on was Incarnate Word at +4. That's the Southland Conference semifinal game, or quarterfinal, forgive me. That's 306,563 Incarnate Word. We did go 842 under 138.5, 138 Cleveland State. And then we went 829 over 138.5, 139 in the Horizon League semifinals with Oakland and Robert Morris. Now, real quickly, as I touched on, this is the time of year where you get an influx of recreational bettors crashing the party. And more importantly, on a day like this, where there's only a number of games to get down on, I'm already seeing bets accumulate back screen on some of the sheets that I have and some of the logins that I have for guys that take action. Here's the teams that are sticking out immediately. Wofford, number one. Furman against Wofford, as well as the over in that game. And you see the totals dropping, and yet the over is continuing to get bet by recreational bettors. Usually they don't bet those totals till later in the day, but maybe there's some recency bias coming in on both those teams. And then Cleveland State. They're betting Cleveland State. Again, I say it all the time, they already know the final score. They're unloading on Cleveland State. They're unloading Cleveland State money line, tying up parlays with other teams. That's their go-to today. And it's actually attracted probably, except for Idaho, Montana State, that's the second big, and Oakland and Robert Morris has gotten action too. But that's a little more balanced. But that and Idaho State, Montana State has taken a lot of action. All of it Montana State. I haven't seen a single Idaho State bet. I'm looking now at the back end of a book that probably has about 300 players. And he's got, I'm telling you, 100% of the actions on Montana State. And yet I think Idaho State opened the dog. Now they're a favorite. So it goes to tell you, they're just fine booking that Montana State action. And like I said, the Wofford and Furman, they're betting that Furman side and the over as well. Those are the ones that really stick out. You touched on Pepperdine St. Mary's. That one will probably get more action as the day goes on. It's a later game. What I'm seeing so far is kind of a split of the betting action. Like, that doesn't really stick out except for the under. And, it's a big move on the under. So it's not surprising that the ticket count and the money's also in that direction. But in that second game, San Francisco and Gonzaga, I see that a little surprising because the line's moving up. You would think that it's Gonzaga money, but I'm seeing San Francisco money. I'm seeing they're taking the 14.5 on the San Francisco side. And, not much movement there at all, right? I mean, it opened 13.5, went up to 14.5. The overnight stayed the same. It's still 14.5. And I can tell you, they're booking San Francisco money more than anything. But again, that one's a lot later in the day, and things can change as more and more bettors crash the party. Because this is the best time of year, man. This is like the most advantageage time for a lot of these groups. This is the time of year where they're asking me for, like, get more accounts. Obviously, they're waiting for baseball as well, which has been like what they wait for more or less all year, a lot of these guys. But they're definitely going to use those accounts in the conference tournaments and March Madness. And they fire a lot of volume. The difficulty with March Madness is they fire a lot of volume, and most bankrolls can't withstand that. If you're just like following along, chasing those steam plays, there's going to be a lot of it. So that's why I always tell bettors, have your stuff prepared, narrow down your list, look for confirmation, don't chase everything and take bad numbers, because these lines are going to move significantly for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the great points there is have your shopping list right before you go to the grocery store, because you can get it's a buffet of numbers. It's a smorgasbord, and you're going to get overwhelmed if you start chasing. And something else, like you just said, is like not only have a preferred side or total, but have a line limit, right? So that you know if it moves a point, do I still like it? Because just because a line moves 1 or 2 points, you hear people say all the time, like, oh, we've lost the value. Well, what if it was off by 10 points? You still got tremendous value. So you have to know what the number should be. And that's what it comes down to. And Gianni, I'll ask you this. I mean, I think this week, March Madness NCAA tournament, it amazes me how sharp the lines are since they all have no common opponents, different conferences. But I mean, this week, you can literally just look at the conference numbers and use those as a power. As long as there was no major injuries. It's a little different now. It used to be everybody played everyone home and home. I mean, it was pure 100% equal schedule strength, but it's pretty close still. You could pretty much make a line for every one of these games, like Gonzaga, San Francisco. I bet if you looked at the conference margins, it's within pretty close to 14 or 100%. Whatever.
And
so every half point means a lot, right?
Yeah, the lines are really tight. They're really tight because you got to remember now, they have a big – it's not like an NFL season where how many games do you have? Now you have a lot of college basketball
30-plus games sample size now, yeah.
You could trust that data a lot more than you could in the NFL, than you can in college basketball. So we talk about those lines being tight, being them willing to take a big bet. Come tournament time, they're willing to take a huge bet,
right?
Because they feel confident in their numbers, that they're really tight. And like you touched on, every half point starts to matter. And that's what the key of having more outs, needing more outs. Because you see, there's some books that are slower that, that don't deal with a lot of sharp accounts. And let's be honest, the majority of bettors aren't betting numbers where that's going to affect them or where they're going to be bounced out because they're getting some CLV. It's even being overlooked. So I always urge guys, I mean, I get it's easier to have credit shops than having the post. But this is the time of year where if you're really taking it seriously and using it as an investment vehicle, posted some of those square outs. Like you're going to get some good numbers. Just compare it to the sharper outs and you'll find some good plays. You know what I mean? Because of the fact they're not booking sharp money. They're booking mostly recreational money. And it's such a huge influx of recreational money. You could go in there and pick off some really good lines, compare them to Bet Online, compare them to Pinnacle, compare them, to, if you're in town here, to Circa or Westgate. And you'll see some big differences. And more times than not, trust the sharper out than the squarer art, what the true number should be. And you'll find some edges. And last but not least, don't overlook the other markets. When all the attention is over here, you could find some things over there because all the attention is on college basketball. And more importantly, those other markets are going to move slower. You know what I mean? Like they're you go into any sports books, there's not 75 people behind the admin room. That's just not how it works. They don't have.
And you're talking other sports. When you say other markets, you mean NBA or even
Exactly.
baseball when it starts up, right?
Baseball when it starts, exactly. NHL, those kind of other sports that are being overlooked during this time. I mean, this is one of the best times for guys that are specialists that have been following the NBA religiously to find some spots that they wouldn't otherwise when everybody's paying attention and when there's more money entering that market. Now it's all going to be college basketball. Like all the recreational accounts will be on college basketball. The only time they're going to use NBA or NHL, from what I'm seeing in the back end, is to parlay the money lines with like a minus 300 favorite in NHL or like an 11-point favorite in the NBA, where they're just going to add the money line to their bet that they like in college basketball. Like they're not straight betting that stuff. They're parlaying the big money lines that they think this team can't lose. They're minus 400. This team can't lose. They're a 12-point favorite at home. And they just think it's going to add a little value to their straight bet by parlaying it. And the market, they're not going to move those lines based on that. So it's good opportunities to don't overlook other sports just because all the excitement is on college basketball. As long as you're cashing a ticket, that's the goal. That's again, if you're doing it for entertainment, bet on the stuff you enjoy, bet on the stuff you want to watch. And know going in that, this is what I could afford to lose. There'll be times I get lucky and win as well. But if you're actually taking it seriously, doing all your studying for the tournament, having your brackets ready to go, and you're living for this moment, definitely don't overlook those other things, and make sure, again, you have multiple outs to bet with. I think that's key, especially at tournament time, and not enough bettors are shopping around. And like you touched on in the start, every half a point is going to matter.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it always matters, but like you just said, if the lines are sharper now than they were 4 months ago in November, it matters more now because you're going to miss more games by half a point. So, it amazes me. People shop around to save $50 to $100 on a laptop computer, but they don't do it every day when they're making a bet on, several $100 bet for free. It's an extra half point for free. Never buy the half points. Even now, still shouldn't be buying them. Sports books know the odds. They're not going to give you the fair price on the extra juice. So that's a simple solution there. And, yeah, it is funny, Johnny, on the way out here that nobody 4 months ago would have cared about Montana State, Idaho, Portland State.
Exactly.
Now 4 months later, everyone's an expert, and it just kind of cracks me up how that works.
Big money on that. They couldn't name 3 players on either side.
Correct.
But they're going to bet it. They're going to bet it. And what are they going to do? They're going to look at the stats that everyone has access to. They're not looking at any advanced metrics. They're not looking at anything that may not be factored into the number. Any kind of data that they're looking at has already been factored into the price. Like it's not, they're going to find that nugget of information in 40 minutes of handicapping that matchup that they're going to be able to find an inefficient line. It's just very difficult to do. You know how hard it is. I try to hunt down minus 105 lines, Steve. I found an out 2 weeks ago, a minus 105 line that gives me minus 105. I treat it like royalty. Like I made sure I put in a parlay on Saturday.
What's the over-under on how long that'll last for you?
Exactly. Like I put in a parlays on Saturday.
Oh, got you.
I want it to be cooled off as much as possible. I want him to think this poses no threat at all to me. Sure, sometimes he'll be on the sharp side, probably by accident. But I'm looking for come conference time when we get deeper, come March Madness, be able to lay 105. I'm looking to lower my VIG, let alone find another half a point. It's hard enough to beat 4.5% hold. And if you're trying to beat that 4.5% hold and not shopping to get that extra half point, like you're putting yourself in a really, really tough situation, like to try to profit.
Well, and quickly on that, it's hard for people to get reduced juice anymore, but a lot of these new legalized sports books have inflated juice. It's a 22, 24 cent line. And, just to do the math, I don't have that math in front of me. I know it's 52.4 at minus 110. I think it's 51.2 at minus 105. It literally cuts your needed win percentage in half.
Yeah.
I mean, we could flip a coin at 51.2 and just line shop and get a half point. You'll win. Exactly. You don't even have to handicap. That's what people miss. If I could get reduced minus 105 juice, I will flip a quarter. I will play team A or B, and I'll have 5 outs, and I'll find that half point on one of the 5, and you will come out 52, 53, 54%.
The guys that actually make their money doing this, Steve, that's what they're doing. That's what they're looking to do every single day. Sure, they take real positions as well, but they're looking to find that one inefficient number, lay as low of a VIG as possible. Like you said, you could flip a coin on the side. It doesn't really even matter. just find that extra half a point, sometimes a whole point different, and laying 105, that's gold. But the worst thing you could do is lay minus 115s. I see that either way. I see that all the time now.
30-cent lines. Whew,
oh my God. I remember 10-cent lines in baseball. You know what I mean? Minus 130 plus 120. That was beautiful. Now, good luck getting that. You know what I mean? Now they're using bigger margins everywhere. But when you're looking at NBA lines, on college basketball lines, if you're willing to lay minus 115 either way, you're not beating that number, man. Like, if they even, like, I've always talked about the fear of them going to 6-5, like they did with blackjack, where they went from 6-5 from 3-2 on a blackjack to 6-5. That's all they had to do. That wipes out my whole advantage as a card counter. That's all they did. One rule change is all they had to do. And the 99% of tourists that are here in Las Vegas, those 6-5 tables are packed. They don't care. They don't know the difference between a 3-2 blackjack and a 6-5 blackjack. They're just looking for an empty chair. And they're starting to realize this. So they're like, cool, why won't we follow what they're doing and go to 6-5? People are still going to play. And my fear, I mean, they're always going to be, thank God for competition. So we'll always find fair places, but it's on you to find them. Because if they know that their customers are willing to lay 6-5, why wouldn't they make them lay 6-5? Yeah, why would you let them lay minus 110? If they're willing to bet at any number, why wouldn't you do it? I don't blame them. They're a business. They're in the business of making money. They're trying to profit. So if that's their way to profit, it's on you, the bettor, to stop it from happening. And like I said, when I started seeing those 6-5 tables at blackjack, I'm like, we're doing it. Like, the players are ruining the game, the edge for everybody by their willingness to play those games. If you don't play them, like, you go to the high limit, any high limit room, there's no 6-5, because a guy with a lot of money, he's done his research more times than not. He didn't, like, you know, they're like, oh, he's a square. People that are playing $500 a hand they're not square. They don't have that kind of money by accident. They may not be well versed at this particular skill set, but rest assured, they're not fools. They're not idiots. And most of them know that, wait, now it's a lot harder to beat. They do a little Google search is going to teach you that you shouldn't be getting 6-5 on blackjack. So you go to any high limit pit, they ain't doing that, because they know nobody's going to be sitting at that table. And that's the difference. We have to put our foot down. We, the market, decide how much we're going to let them take advantage of us. So you keep laying those minus 115s. Next time you're going to look up, it's going to be minus 120. So stop laying those bad numbers, that bad VIG, and force them into creating a fair atmosphere for everybody. The hold's enough at minus 110 to turn a nice enough profit with a 4.5% edge. Why do they need a lot higher? Why? Because we, the market, don't demand lower. So start not playing at those spots and watch the things change. It's the only way it's going to change the landscape, if people just stop betting into it.
Yeah, the analogy I use, Gianni, is I hope that we're in the infancy with the Wild Wild West still of legalized sports betting. And, you know, you look over at Europe and England, where it's been around for 20, 30, 40 years, and you see a Betfair, you see some of the exchanges. I hope we get to that point eventually. But like you just said, the only people that care about are the sharps. And if I'm running the sports book, I don't want the sharps. And, you know, so right now you've got to get through that baby stage where people learn that they can do better than minus 112 on each side. And real quickly, too, in-game betting is very popular, but keep in mind, those are usually 30-cent lines. It's usually minus 115 each way. So, yes, there are edges in-game, but once again, it's doubling what you have to do. You have to get to about 54% now to break even versus 51, 52%. So the math matters. It's all numbers. It's all math. As Fletch would say, it's all ball bearings. But everyone kind of gets lost in the shuffle there. Hey, this is great stuff. This is basically a mini example of the steam room, right? If people want to know more about this, this is what you do every weekend. Tell them about it.
Yes, sir. And this week, I think I'm going to have it on a Friday night. Thursday, I'll see where there's more games. I think it's Thursday. I'll probably have it. And because there's just so much going on Saturday, and I want to make sure I'm able to answer all the questions as well. And like I always tell everybody, come in with your games already circled, your sides and totals already circled. We're going to go through pretty much every single one. I'll give you the information I have, whether we bet the side or total, another group I get access to bet it. I'll let you know what the back ends show as well, just so you get a good market read. You know, most guys that come in, they're good at the X's and O's already. You know what I mean? I don't have to dig deep into the X's and O's. I could do what I specialize at and helping them from the market standpoint, from seeing if the number's still bettable. And of course, hyping it up, brother, because next Tuesday is the first class for the Advantage Blackjack course. Woo! If you If you signed up for a year, you're getting it for free. And I promise you, if you're a sports bettor that has no interest in playing blackjack, you will gain so much from that blackjack course that you could carry over into sports betting. You really will. And anyone that does frequent casinos and wants to have an edge, I will teach them everything they need to know to be the favorite against the casino. I'm going to teach them not only what I use and what has produced the most success for me, I will teach them the best ways to prolong lifetime, because I've been kicked out so many times. I know what not to do now, so I could help people do that to avoid being tossed. And more importantly, learn the money management that's required. And all you have to do is be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And I will teach you the fair games, because again, you'll know what games to look for. They're still out there. I promise you, at every casino on the strip and a casino 10 minutes from where you live, they have a fair blackjack game that you will have the edge in, you will have the advantage in every time you walk into the casino. If you have the passion for it and are willing to practice what I teach you at home, you will be armed to do damage. And there's nothing they could do but kick you out. You will be the favorite versus the casino at the blackjack table. That's fact.
I love it. If you want proof, he's got some videos showing that he is being kicked out, which I love. That was the best lead into that course I've ever seen, and I'm looking forward to that, because that's gold. It really is gold. And like you just said, you don't have to be a blackjack player. It's going to translate to sports betting. We just talked about those 105 accounts. You got to try to keep those alive as long as possible. It's a cat and mouse game. That's why I've transitioned more and more to the financial markets whenever possible. It's like a bigger, easier version. We'll have to talk Bitcoin. Maybe I can guest host tomorrow. We'll get a little Bitcoin talking tomorrow.
I love it. I love it. I picked a little bit up today. I can't believe you just mentioned that. I picked up a little bit more today. I think it got to drop. It could get to 73. That's the next fib level. No problem at all. Just buy some more. Unless you plan on trading it, then it's a different story. But if you plan on holding it, the only reason you're buying is because you think 5 years from now it's going to be worth more. 10 years from now it's going to be worth more. So what do you care in the intermediary what it is, what your gain and loss is on paper? As long as you're making good buys and not buying, well, no one's going to be guessing exactly what the top is or the bottom. But as long as you're not doing that and buying at the top, as long as you plan to hold, you'll make some money if you place good buys. Now, if you're trading, it's a different story. Every penny matters. But if you're waiting for 10 years, if you really have that long-term investment strategy, what's the difference if you got in at 90,000 or 88,000? When it gets up into 200,000, 300,000, which is people's goal, right? Is it really going to matter? The key is getting it. Because what they're doing right now, the institutions they are burying the longs and the shorts. If you see with that pumps and dumps. So everyone leveraged up is getting liquidated. Everyone leveraged down is getting liquidated, and they end up with all the free Bitcoin. It's amazing how they do.
This 80,000 is interesting level. It bounced off it last week. A hard bounce went back to the 90s, and it filled that gap from months ago between 80 and 83. There was a weekend gap between the futures markets, and it filled it. So another great strategy we'll talk about some other time is how gaps get filled. Market falling down today, too. Also, people have to cash out from one profitable investment sometimes to cover others. Be interesting to see how that plays out. Once again, find out more about the Steam Room, also about the Blackjack course, the one-year all-access package, wt.buzz/VR for Vegas Runner, wt.buzz/VR. Johnny, get out of here.
Good luck, my man. Thank you, Steve.
Go chase some steam. We'll see you. Always a pleasure. And that'll do it. Wager Talk Today, Monday, March the 10th. If you found it useful, thumbs up, like, comment, and once again, click subscribe and click that bell for instant alerts. When the shows go live and also when all the free play videos are posted each and every day. And stay tuned to Wager Talk TV, because there's more free content coming up next.